Hi guys, Russell here from homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Welcome to another brew review. Today we're checking out the Black Rock Golden Ale, which is one of the brand new bag-in-box kits. Welcome to today's brew review. We're covering the brand new bag-in-box kit from Black Rock, and we're going to do the Golden Ale. We're going to do two brews today. One brew, we're going to take the kit by itself and make it the quickest, the simplest, the easiest way. The second brew, we're going to take a recipe approach, which in the context of the bag-in-box kits, which are a bit different to our extract brewing kits, means that all we can really do is add extra hops. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Here we are guys, this is the Black Rock bag-in-box. First thing I'll say is I love the packaging. I think they're going to make great kind of gift sets for brewers. All the information we need is on the front. So the ABV for this brew is 5.3%, so it's got a little bit of kick to it. Our IBU, which is our International Bitterness Units, is 10. The scale for IBU is up to 100, so 10 is really, really low. So I'm probably expecting with this a light malt character, probably a little bit more sweetness over the bitterness. And our SRM, which is a colour measure, is 5, again really low, so I'm expecting a really light and bright golden colour. Now let's open this up. Alright, that's why it's called a bag-in-box, because there is a bag in a box. Genius, right? Okay. Comprehensive instructions, not that we need them because this is so simple, it's not funny. And our yeast, which is the US-05. So the other key point is this comes with a craft series yeast to start with. Now the next most important thing to know about these kits, when we're using extract brewing kits, we normally have to add in additional ingredients for fermentation, which would be a dextrose, a liquid malt extract, a brewing sugar, something like that. There are no additional ingredients. So basically with this kit, that's all you need. You drop this into your fermenter, you add water, and away you go. Alright, like we said, we're going to brew two brews. The first brew is going to be a basics brew. The basics brew in this case is really simple. We're going to take that bag of, I guess you could still call it malt extract. We're going to get into our fermenter, we're going to add the yeast, and we're going to get going. I will talk really quickly about the yeast. It is the Safe Ale US-05 yeast. I'm a big fan of the Safe Ale yeasts. They're a great yeast. They are a better quality yeast than the, I'm just going to say the standard yeast we'll get with our extract brewing kits, for the better. I also, and I like this for two reasons. Number one, it has a really nice flavour tone during fermentation. It actually introduces a very soft sort of citrus note during fermentation from the yeast, which I think is really cool. The other thing I've always really liked as well is the temperature range of this yeast, which is sorry guys, ideally 18 to 25 degrees. I think that's what it says here. Yeah, 18 to 25 degrees, which is a really flexible temperature range for us down here in New Zealand, and in general is reasonably reflective of year-round brewing, unless you're in a particularly hot part of New Zealand over summer or a particularly cold part over winter. I'm in Auckland, so this pretty much works for me year-round, which means it's going to be a great brew for anyone who is brewing in ambient temperatures, again giving that really nice level of flexibility. Brew number two for us is normally a recipe brew where we're using additional ingredients. I don't know if we can really call this a recipe brew because we're not really using anything else. Again, back to the bag concept, it's just the extract going in the fermenter, adding water, and away we go. The only real variable that we have with this kit is hops. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to dry hop. I'm using the Galaxy hop, which is known to have citrus and tropical sort of fruit aromas and flavour profile, and it's one that Brendon from BlackRock actually suggested we use with this kit, so I'm going to take his suggestion. Now there's a couple of key things that I want to pull out which I haven't mentioned earlier, and another one of the reasons I really like these kits is these are the same product that is being sold into small commercial breweries. So as home brewers, we're now using the exact same product that is being used by commercial breweries to make the beer that we would drink over the bar, which I think is really, really awesome. Now, coming back to this brew, the recipe brew, when I was talking to Brendon, what he basically said to us is if you use the kit by itself, which for us is going to be the basics brew, he said what you can expect is something similar to a commercial style beer, like something you might get out of a bottle that you bought from a supermarket. And what he said is if you prefer like a craft style beer with a bigger hoppy profile or bigger hop character, then add dry hops. So as mentioned, that's what we're going to do. That's the only difference today between the basics brew and the recipe brew is this bag of dry hops. I'm going to use 50 grams of dry hops. I'm going to add them in on day 4 of fermentation. So I'm going to close this segment here and then we'll talk about process in general for both brews. The process here, guys, is so simple, it's not funny. It quite literally is grab a bag, drop it in your fermenter and add water. Now the beauty of this is because we're not having to use any hot water to dissolve anything or make anything softer, I'm going to say we're pretty much going to be at pitching temperature the second we fill these fermenters up. So I'm going to get these fermenters filled up, I'm going to get them down to the garage and we'll check in back there. For now though, for something that is as simple as I'm saying, too much talking, not enough brewing, let's get these brews on. Cheers. Hey guys, this is potentially the most embarrassing faux pas ever made. Someone forgot to press record, so you got to see all that goodness of me mixing those two brews up at lightning speed. Man, alright, that aside, what I'm going to do, which is not what I normally do, is pitch the yeast here. And I was thinking as I was mixing these two brews up that there are actually subtle advantages which I guess feed into that main advantage of being easier. As an example, one of the things that's recommended is giving your wort a really good kind of stir up to aerate it before you pitch your yeast. Now normally when I take these brews down to the garage, they've had boiling water on the bottom, so they're well over 30 degrees and well past pitching temperature. Because we haven't had to use boiling water, I've just gone straight in with cold water, so benefit number one is I can pitch straight away. I can already kind of see without looking too hard, these are around the 20 degree mark, which is a perfect pitching temperature for that yeast, and I'm happy to go straight ahead. The next major advantage is because I've been stirring and mixing as I added the fresh water, these brews are really aerated. We've got a really nice foamy layer on top. So normally for me, I'd have to wait for the wort to cool down. I'd normally give it 12 to 24 hours. Then you've got to sanitize your spoon again, open it up, give it a mix, but these are ready to go. So what I'm going to do is pitch the yeast right here and then take these down to the garage. The next time you guys see me will be when we're adding the hops to whichever one of these we decide is the recipe brew. So let's get these one, two pieces of yeast pitched. Okay, yeast number one. Boom. What I would say though is what the brewers have been posting online is 100% true. Like, I know you missed the video, but it was very literally 3 minutes and that was ready. 3.5 if you count pitching the yeast. Right, before I close these up, I'm going to give you guys a real quick look about what's going on in there. Here we go guys, check that out. So you can see the level of foam on top, which is very natural. That's just from the aeration, like the aggressive sort of stirring as we were mixing the water into the extract. What you can see on top there is the yeast we've just pitched. Don't worry about the fact that it's sitting on top. That foam will die off over the next couple of hours and that yeast will make its way into the wort. Same here guys. So we're ready to go. Like I said, I'm going to get these lids on. I'm going to get these two down to the garage. Now the one thing I didn't mention is I'm going to be brewing. I'm not going to use my temperature control room for this to ferment. What I will probably do is use it to cold crash, but not to ferment. I'm smack bang in the middle of winter. The last brew that I did went through around about 20 degrees, which is perfect for this yeast. So I'm going to let it roll. Alright guys, see you on the other side. Welcome to day 4 of fermentation, which is when we said we would drop our hops in. So you can kind of see from that fermentation is well underway in these brews. What I have there is 60 grams of the Galaxy hop. I think I said I was going to do 50, but I'm going to do 60. So let's get the lid off and get these hops in. Check that out guys. Looks really nice, and that colour is great, but the smell, it's a really awesome smell. Alright guys, hops, in we go. Alright, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I just go commando. The argument for commando is you increase the surface area contact with your hop, therefore you increase the transfer of the characteristics you're looking for in terms of flavour and aroma. There are drawbacks, so I would only go commando like this if you can cold crash at the end. The combination of findings, cold crashing, and the sediment filter in the bottling bucket is going to make sure you don't get any of that organic matter come through as sediment in your brew. If you can't cold crash in particular, use a hop sock. Chuck the hops in a hop sock and then chuck them in your brew. Yeah, all that said, let's get this lid back on and then we will see you on the other side for the official taste test. Cheers guys. Hey guys, welcome back to the official brew review for the Black Rock Golden Ale. This is of course the first brew we've done from Black Rock's new brew in a box or bag in a box crafted range, which was launched onto the market about 4 months ago now. Let's get into it. What you'll remember is we did 2 brews. Brew number 1. Okay, the first brew of course was what would normally be a basics brew for us, which is where we take the kit and we get it on the simplest way possible, which couldn't have been more simpler than this kit right here. It was bag straight into the fermenter, add water, add yeast, away you go. What did we get? Right, pouring. Yeah guys, I didn't pour that particularly well, but check it out. Incredibly nice golden colour going on right there. Really nice white head. Really nice smell as well. Definitely a very light malt character and fruity tones coming through. What I would say about this brew, just check out that head right there. So this is a piece of feedback I've had from one of our brewers. They didn't brew the golden ale, they brewed the pale ale, but they called this out and I think it's true. The head is really nice. It's really crisp and really white and really bright, but it's really low head retention. It falls away really, really quickly. I don't know if I'm overthinking this. I feel like it's a bit different for the hopped brew. We'll check that out when we get there, but it's definitely true for this one. So that covers off our head. We've covered off our aroma. So next is taste. Right. What I would say about this is, if we go back to the box and the IBU, International Bitterness Units, is 10, which is incredibly low. So IBU is normally a scale of 100. To put this into context, what I would call which isn't technically true on the scale, but what I generally refer to as a mid-level of bitterness would be around that, say, 30 to 40 mark, which I think is probably quite a commonplace for most beers. So already, if I call that a mid-level of bitterness, you can see that this is, dropping down from 30 to 40 down to 10 is a huge drop. Something for me that's a big bitterness is around 50. Now, the point being is this has incredibly low bitterness. Now, what that means, if we go through to the taste and the flavour profile of this, the malt character is an exceptionally light malt character. What we've also got is citrus tones and fruity tones, and those really lead the flavour out. Now, the reason I raise that is, if you go back to that low bitterness, what this beer is really about is that fruit and that citrus and that, those flavours and that malt sweetness, which I think is where it gets interesting. I shared this with one friend who essentially took a sip, really liked it, described it as really, really easy drinking, really smooth and easy to go down. His wife tried it, she gave it a nod, so thumbs up there. I shared this with actually another customer who uses our site. I gave him a bottle of the unhopped and the hopped. He came back and said both, didn't give much more specific, but just said both were really nice. Now, if I contrast that, I said before we had an email from another one of our brewers, and admittedly this was the pale ale, so not the golden ale, but one of the things he spoke to, his exact words were lolly water. So for him, it was a little bit too on the sweet side. Now, just remember that comment was for still in the crafted range, but for another kit. So I guess where that leaves me with this brew, in terms of the basics brew, probably going to be a little bit down to your personal perspective. And I think that the low bitterness on this brew in particular is really going to be the piece, because if you like a brew with a bit of bitterness, this isn't going to give it to you. The other thing that low bitterness does is it also accentuates the malt sweetness and those fruity and those citrus tones, which might lead you to use a term like lolly water, depending on your personal preferences. The only other thing I would say about this, and this is in favour of it for me, was I felt that the general mouthfeel, and in particular the flavour, was a very, very smooth and a very clean profile, which I really liked. So overall, not a bad brew on the basics brew. However, the next brew is our recipe brew, which I far preferred. Right, basics brew aside, recipe brew. I use the term recipe in this context a little bit loosely because there's not really many places we can go. Really all we did was we hopped this, and the hop we used was Galaxy. Remember, Galaxy has been described as Australia's Citra. Citrus, tropical fruit notes, and Galaxy was actually one of the recommendations from Brendon to brew with this beer. Here you go, guys. Beautiful. So again, really nice, light, bright gold colour, really beautiful white head. I could be imagining this, but I would argue the head retention on the hopped brew is better. I don't know if dry hopping actually affects head retention. Like I said, I could just be completely imagining that. The first notable big difference is to our aroma. And I would say definitely a lot more of that tropical fruit leading out the aroma. It's really nice. The biggest difference to this brew is logically we've got more of a hop forward character and accentuated fruity and citrus tones. Given that the malt flavour profile was so light on the basics brew, this brew really now is all about those fruity and those citrus tones. Personal preference, I've never been shy that I prefer a little bit of hop character. Brendon suggested that hopping this would give us something that was comparable to a commercial craft produced beer. In general, I would agree with that. I think in terms of its finish, in terms of its flavour quality, and particularly with the hops, what I would expect out of a can, completely agree with that. The other thing for me, so I shared this around some of my friends. One of my friends in particular came back and said, best one he's tried yet. Now I've said that on these reviews before, so I want to come back a very small step. I'll chuck a link on the screen here. There was a review I did which was the Mangrove Jack's Craft Series American APA, I think it was. And there were two friends in particular whose comments I remember. Now one of them came back and said this was the best one you've ever done. And what was really interesting was I asked him why he said that and what it was about the brew. And he had some quite specific reasons which related to his personal preferences. One of my other friends who tried it, his feedback was favourable, but it wasn't up there with best one you've ever done. Now it was that friend who said this one is the best yet. Now the reason he said that, I didn't go too far into it with him, but the more I've gotten to know him and the more I've gotten to know what he likes drinking, this was very much in line with his preferred styles. So I guess one thing I've learned, I guess I've always known it, but this was a good reminder, is beauty really is in the eye of the brew holder, and you can make something that someone else thinks is okay, but another person takes the exact same brew and thinks it's awesome. And I think that was a really good example of that. So I guess my key message would be if what you prefer is a craft style brew with a hop forward flavour profile, this is probably going to be on the mark for you. I've certainly really enjoyed this one. Now at the same time, I reached out to another one of our customers who brewed the Golden Ale, and he did it with Galaxy. So I reached out to him because I knew he brewed it the same way that I brewed it, and just checked in with him and said, look, how'd you go, what do you think? Admittedly, when he replied to me, the brew was a little bit earlier on. I think he tried it at 4 weeks, and that was his first try. He came back and said it was, pretty much it was good. Now I didn't press for more detail, and it's always tricky to interpret what someone means or what someone's really saying when they put something in writing. It's easier when you're face to face and you can hear their words and see their body language and tone and all the rest of it. But I interpreted from his email that he thought it was good but wasn't necessarily ecstatic about it. So again, I think that goes back into that sort of personal preference piece, whichever way you want to go. Of the two brews, I would have rated this one a bit higher, but I think that comes down to my personal preference. Right, the other thing I thought would be good just to talk about by way of closing this review out is where this kit is going to work, how it's going to work for and where it's not. I followed with interest some of the comments I saw in forums around the place. I also was interested in what some of our brewers were saying against this kit. One of the comments I heard from one of our brewers was, so you're basically saying I add water, add the yeast, and that's it. That really leaves me as a brewer nowhere to go, nothing to play with. Fair comment, and what I would say to that is, if as a brewer, you're the kind of person who wants to play around, wants a little bit more flexibility, that's probably not going to work for you. The other area I saw people raise a question over the kit was around its price, and I think it's a little bit deceptive. So I think on one hand, what I will acknowledge is these kits, they are a premium product, and I think they're priced as such. But I think there's a little bit of deception in there as well, and I think where these kits have an advantage is essentially excluding hops. They're an all-in-one kit. They've got everything you need. You don't need to buy anything else. Most other kits on the market do need additional ingredients purchased, and when you start factoring that in, even other premium brands, they are not too different. By all of my calculations, they were still a little bit more expensive, particularly when you factored in buying hops, but not too different. So to the question, are they expensive? I think that's a perspective piece. I think the first key message is they're a premium product, and if you're looking for the premium brewing kits and you start comparing apples for apples, they're more or less in line, definitely at the upper end, but more or less in line with that range. If you are a value conscious brewer and you are more orientated towards how do I brew the simplest way possible, they are going to appear relatively more expensive. But like I said, personal preference piece. What I would say about these kits is to come back to what Brendon said, which is when you use these kits, you're going to produce something that resembles or something that is close to the style of a commercially produced beer. Both in the case of brewing this as a straight kit or with the hops, I would agree with that. The second key benefit that these bring is, I think, and Brendon called this out, using these kits, it is far easier to get a better brew or get a good brew than it is combining other ingredients. So particularly from the perspective of someone who is a newer brewer, easier to get a good brew straight off the bat. And the last key thing I'd really call out is the timing. And albeit I really fudged the video earlier on, these really are kind of a 5-minute deal to get into the fermenter and get going. So all that said, if I was to weigh up the brew in a box, I think Black Rock has done a really good job of bringing something to market that's different and unique, particularly for kit brewers, relative to your standard extract kits. The last thing that I really like about these is the knowledge that we're brewing with the exact same product that small microbreweries or commercial breweries use. So we're replicating commercial products in our home brewing processes, which I thought was really cool. So all that said, I'm going to start wrapping this up. Where am I going next? Man, I'm way behind on my brew reviews. Okay, so what I've got down is a pale ale. That's another Black Rock kit, which I'm actually drinking it now. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to doing that brew review. I did one as a low carb, and I did one as a NEPA. We'll obviously talk more about that in the brew review. I've done another Mangrove Jack's Craft Series brew. I did the Amber IPA. That's come out exceptionally. I'm really happy with that so far. Actually November 4, put this in your diary guys, November 4th is International Stout Day. I've brewed my first ever stout. I took a recipe approach from one of our brewers who kindly shared with me actually a recipe that he won Best Brew on the Day for with his local homebrew club. Super excited about that. Alright, what's going down next? I'm going back to the brew in a box. Now my the next beers that I put down for me, I'm going to do a double brew. I'm going to do the Brew in the Box IPA and the Brew in the Box Pale Ale. Because I know that I preferred this one hopped, I'm not going to do those individually as a basics and a hopped brew. I'm just going to, like I said, do the IPA and the Pale Ale alongside each other, and I'm going to hop both of those. The other thing I want to talk about is our new Facebook group, Homebrew Republic Kit Brewers. You can find it on Facebook, track it down, hit the join button. If you've listened this far in the video, first of all, thank you, really appreciate it, but it also suggests that we're like-minded people. So, like I said, track the group down, hit the join button, come on in. If you're an experienced brewer who's been kit brewing for a long time, actually that's a good point, like in case the name of the group wasn't obvious, the group is dedicated to kit brewing. I would suggest right now there's probably more beer brewers in there than anything else, but I do want that kit to be about kit brewing, the group to be about kit brewing in general, so whether that's cider or even wine, come on in. If you're an experienced brewer, what the group is all about is a place to share ideas, share your brews, grab some recipe ideas, that kind of thing. If you are a newer brewer or someone who wants to get into brewing, it's a place to ask questions about process, ask for process recommendations, ask for kit recommendations, discuss what other people like, don't like, all the rest of it, everything that goes with it. Most of all, what it's about is good people and good banter. So like I said, Homebrew Republic Kit Brewers, it's on Facebook, track it down, find the join button, come on in. One more thing, and we're quite proud of this, is we've launched Homebrew Republic, the Essential Kit Brewers Guide. It's on our website, homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Track it down, have a look. I want to come back a step and I want to talk about Homebrew Republic and why we exist and what we're here to do. So 2 key messages. First one is we're dedicated to kit brewing. That's what we do. Obviously there's other forms of brewing around, but kit brewing is what we want to stake our name on and what we want to be a voice in the market for. More importantly though, what we have said as our purpose is empowering brewers, and what we're here to do is help people make good brews that your friends and family will drink with you. First and foremost, a good brew that you're happy to enjoy yourself, but good brews that you're comfortable and you're proud of sharing with your friends and family, and that they enjoy sharing with you. That's what this is all about. And for us, what that guide is a way to extend that promise and a way to I guess share with you everything we know that helps us make good brews. Now the content in there is based on everything that we've learned along the way. But what we went and did is we spent tens to hundreds of hours online and we researched what we thought we knew. So we wanted to validate what we thought we knew, but we also wanted to look for, have we missed, are there any sort of tips and tricks in there that we can bring into this? More importantly though, we went out to some of our trusted customers and shared an advanced copy, and effectively what we did is asking for feedback. It was, here's why we've created this. Does this guide have everything in it that you think you would want to know? What's the quality of the content like? Does it add value to you? And is there anything missing to bring in? Or do you want to share something that you feel would help other brewers? And so the guide is not just about what we know anymore. It's about, about what our customers said to us. It's about the questions that get asked most commonly, and it's about some of the tips and tricks that most helped our customers. So, like I said, the guide's on our website, homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Track it down, have a look. It was months and months of work, not to mention a little bit of investment. So we're super excited and super proud. What I want to say though at this point is, if you like this video, we're going to wrap up here. give us a thumbs up. It always helps out. I'm going to pause for a second, find that subscribe button, click, hit it, pausing. Thank you. If you want to comment, yeah, chuck a comment below. I'm happy to, you'll see most of the videos people drop comments on. I do always engage, reply back. Equally, like I said, if you've got a comment, come along to the Facebook group, chuck it in there as well. But time for me to stop talking. I want to say thanks for watching. We will catch you next time. But for now, cheers.
Cheers.